After Ukraine's recent success in targeting Russia with its drones, it wasn't hard to predict that the Russians would respond with ballistic missiles, and indeed they did. And last night there were a series of really big attacks on Kyiv and the surrounding areas. According to the Ukrainians, they attacked residential areas, a railway station, and a series of warehouses in a series of explosions that created some pretty big fires. That was all fairly predictable. And as a result of that, President Zelensky has said some very angry things today. He said ballistic missile interceptors could have saved the lives of those killed today. It is very important that our partners, that's the Europeans, our partners understand that delays in supplying them or an unwillingness to provide anti-ballistic systems lead directly to such horrific casualties and destruction. And he makes the point here that only a third of the interceptors exist now in Ukraine that they had this time last year. So in a sense, he is admitting that Ukraine is wide open, Kyiv in particular, is open to ballistic missile attack. Last night, they were subject to 115 Russian drones. They brought down about 90% of them, well over 90 of those drones. There were about 4 high-speed cruise missiles. They seem to have brought those down. But there were 24 ballistic missiles that followed them in, and all 24 landed. There was nothing that Kyiv can do about that, because they have run out of ammunition for their Patriot batteries. They've got lots of other interceptors. They've got interceptors, the NASAMS one, which is an American, Norwegian system. They've got German, Italian, French systems that work. They've got their old Soviet systems, the old S-300, the Buck M1. But the only thing that will bring down ballistic missiles fully and properly are Patriots. They've got the batteries. They're more or less out of ammunition. That's the problem that they have, and they're going to have that for some time to come. Nevertheless, the Ukrainians have continued attacking into Russia. And last night, the Russians reported attacks in Belgorod, in Kursk, in Bryansk, and in Moscow itself. So the Ukrainians are keeping up the offensive. And to a degree, this is a battle of wills between the two leaderships. So the next key question is, what does Moscow think?
It's been a very difficult and damaging few weeks for Vladimir Putin, which has put him under real pressure. And this latest attack on Kyiv feels like part of his response. So first in Russia, there were those fuel shortages and massive queues at petrol stations caused by all those drone strikes on Russian oil refineries. Now Ukraine is targeting the warehouses belonging to its top online retailer, Wildberries. It's Russia's answer to Amazon, and the campaign against it is causing serious disruption to the consumer economy there and bringing the war much closer to home for millions of ordinary Russians. There was also the recent incident with a drone falling onto a packed beach on Russia's Black Sea coast, killing 7 people there. And don't forget that deadly bombing at a high-end restaurant in central Moscow over the weekend, which Russia blamed on Ukraine. Now, none of this is a good look for Vladimir Putin. His whole reputation has been built on security, keeping Russians safe. His invasion of Ukraine, for example, was sold to Russians as a way of boosting Russia's national security. But it's increasingly having the opposite effect. And this represents a real challenge to Putin's authority, which he's now trying to reassert.
But there's something else which is interesting as well, that last night one of the Ukrainian attacks was in the Tula region, where they attacked one of the Wildberry warehouses. This was the 14th of the 15 biggest warehouses that Wildberry offers. And Wildberry have now suffered attacks, destruction or damage to 60% of their warehousing capacity. It's cost them so far about $3 billion worth of stock and counting. And there's something else as well. Wildberries is the most indebted company in the whole of Russia. It's carrying about $10 billion worth of debt. Most of that debt is held by VTB Bank. And VTB is a state-sponsored bank, state-directed. The thinking in Kyiv seems to be that if by these attacks, which undoubtedly will continue, if they can bring down Wildberries, maybe they can bring down VTB Bank and start a crisis throughout the banking sector in Russia and make the Russian economy, which is already staggering, even more fragile and difficult for Putin to draw from it the war material that he wants. I have to say, I think the Ukrainians are being a bit over-optimistic in this view. They do tend towards over-optimism when they think about the things that might be happening in Russia and all the ways in which they could affect the Russian leadership. I think they're overdoing it. But whether or not they are, it indicates that whatever is happening on the front lines, and the front lines are relatively static at the moment, but whatever is happening there, this war is still moving very quickly because it is moving into new strategic territory.